Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, worldwide, we celebrate the 31st or fourth time the International Day of Older Persons. It is always the 1st of October. We are a bit early, and we celebrate it today for specific reasons, and I hope that suits you well. I would like to welcome very warmly, in the first place, our speakers. Two on my right side, two on my left side, and two virtually. They are connected with us through the internet. And then I would like to welcome you all, the participants, that you have found a way to here and that you're so interested in this conference. I'm very pleased to see that the room is full. I even have participants in my back, not in the first range here, but behind me. That makes me very happy indeed. I would like to thank the United Nations Office Vienna for the support, because they have given us this beautiful meeting room to meet, and for all their support, even today's technical support. Thank you very much indeed. Without you, communication would be much more difficult, if not impossible. Thank you. And then I would like to also thank the task force of NGO representatives, which has prepared this event very thoroughly over the last month and over the last weeks and days, and in particular, the chair of that task force, Rita. And my last but not least thank goes to the Austrian Social Ministry, which very kindly has sponsored the event after the event. And that is a reception. Once we have finished with our conference here, we can enjoy coffee and other drinks and a little bit of snacks. And that is due to the support of the Austrian Social Ministry. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic of today's meeting is marginalization of older persons in society, a significant health risk. That is a very interesting topic indeed. We have brainstormed over many hours to find something really interesting and came to the result that this would be the ideal topic for today. Now, I would like to offer you as appetizers, so to say, a couple of personal reflections on that topic. And I would like to start with the questions, what do we understand by marginalization? Marginalization is, in my understanding, an act of society towards selected persons or groups. These selected groups are pushed in a way to the margins of society, out of the middle of society to the margins. They are mostly disrespected and disadvantaged. And important rights are refused to them, even fundamental and human rights. My second question, who are these persons or groups identified by society on grounds of specific attributes, particularly prone to marginalization are unusual and strange persons? I mean, I'm proud of myself to be unusual and strange, but that is not the case, which I mean. They are often nonconformist persons not fitting into the mainstream of society. Typical groups are, for example, homeless people, drug addicts, and persons with HIV, AIDS, often migrants and asylum seekers, Romans and travelers, LGBTQIA persons, persons with disabilities, unfortunately, and sometimes also eccentrics and troublemakers. The range of marginalized persons thus can be very wide. Also, and that has to be remarked, older and frail persons can often do, and they do suffer from marginalization. All these persons and groups have often in common that they are defenseless and their voice is not heard in society. They are predominantly lonely and have only little or even no social contacts. That they are very often withdrawn from society and apathetic. In sum, ladies and gentlemen, they fall through the grid of society's help and support structures. About the importance of the phenomenon and the tragic consequences for society at large, we shall learn today a lot from the following contributions of our speakers, our very eminent speakers. And I would like to present to you, to start with, Rainer Münz. Thank you for being here, that you have found the way to this place. Rainer Münz is an expert in demography and international migration. During his career, he has been working as an academic in the private sector and as a government advisor. He currently teaches at the Central European University in the Department of Public Policy and at the Diplomatic Academy in Vienna. Between 2015 and 2019, he was an advisor on migration and demography to the European Commission's president at that time, Mr. Juncker. So, Rainer Münz, I invite you to take the floor and entertain us with all your knowledge, which is very high level, but you have the ability to share that with us in a very understandable way. Please.
I do hope so. Mr. Jarré, thank you very much, both for the invitation. I will show you a presentation. So please don't look at me, but at the screen. So aging, or we're talking about aging. This is a global phenomenon, but it has very different implication depending on the region, the area, the group we're talking about. So aging has three different dimensions that are only loosely connected. The first dimension is related to biology. So we are talking about people, younger people. So aging starts at age 0. But for the first 20 years, we are politely talking about maturing. And this aging is only reserved for the later stage of life. But from a biological point of view, the aging starts from the beginning. And so probably you know a lot more about that, but I just wanted to say that the biological aging basically has to do with our DNA and the ability of our DNA to reduplicate itself without errors in that sense. And at the end of the DNA, there's these telomeres, which give you, which can be used as an indicator of the biological aging. So, but I'm not an expert on that. I just wanted to show that's the first meaning of aging. It's about biology. The second meaning of aging has to do with lifestyle. So the aging is something that is influenced not only by, your genetical predisposition, but what you're doing with it. And there's, if you Google lifestyle and aging, you immediately get hints what to do, what not to do. So physical exercise is great, eating fewer meat or no meat at all, at least starting from the age, I don't know, 25 or 30. It's not exactly something you would tell children to do. Having a healthy diet, avoiding processed food, fat food, things like that. And then usually you get a hint, don't smoke and drink less. So that's, but this is not a physiological or dietary rule. This is a social one, because usually one should say, don't drink and don't smoke. But it appears to be, how you say, more palatable that people stop smoking, but continue drinking at least a little bit. Although from a tax point of view, both is fine. The more you drink, the more you smoke, the better for the government, because you are making voluntary contributions via the taxation on these products. And then get a good sleep. So that's usually what we are getting here. So you have an influence on that. And the third element on this biological thing is the environment. I mean, you can have a healthy lifestyle, but if you live next to a place that produces, I don't know, whatever, poison, it won't help you. So you have a higher risk in inner cities. You have a higher risk if you live next to a, I don't know, a coal plant producing electric energy, things like that. So we come to the second dimension, and this is social aging. So the social aging is something that links the biological age with chronological age. Chronological age is something that you find as a marker in your identity documents. It tells you when you were born, and by looking at the calendar, you can see how old you are on a chronological scale, and everyone else can see it as well. Yeah? So chronological aging is linked via steps to social aging. So the first step is you go to kindergarten or to school. There's mandatory ages when you need to attend school. There is a minimum age to get out and be able to vote, something we have seen in Austria yesterday. In Austria, voting age, at least how you say that, the active voting age is starts at age 16. But there's nothing in your biology that tells you 16 is a good age, better than 18. When I was born, it was 21. When my parents were born, it was rather 25 or something like that. This is a political decision that the society is taking. Same with joining the military. If you have a society where it's draft, like in Austria or in Israel or in a few other countries in the world, then there's a certain age when you have to present yourself, at least the male side of society. But again, this is a political decision. It's arbitrary in a sense. I mean, one would not send 5-year-old children, but if draft age would be at 21, you could also make an argument around that. Then in most countries, there's a minimum age at which you're allowed to buy alcohol and to drink it in public. Minimal age of marriage varies very differently. Even within countries like the US, you have states in the US where you can already get married at age 14. There's others that push it to age 18, 19, something like that. Again, a political decision. It's loosely related to our physiological ability to reproduce ourselves, but only loosely. And then finally, retirement is also kind of a political decision. Nothing tells you that you have to retire at age 60 or 65, except legal provisions stating that. But there are certain people who could most likely or easily continue working, like myself, being over age 65, and there's other people where maybe reaching 65 within as part of the working society, working part of the society is already difficult. Okay, so the third element is demographic aging. And demographic aging is the simplest of these three dimensions that we're looking at, because demographic aging just means the share of older people is getting larger and the share of younger people is getting smaller. Yeah, so that's so very important. You hear over the radio and the TV that our societies are aging. You look into the mirror, you see yourself aging as well. So you think the society is aging. I myself am aging. We are already two. It's very important to understand that two things have nothing to do with each other. you would be aging. You and me, we would be aging step by step, one day after the other, even within a society that is not aging. My parents, for example, when they were young and producing the baby boom, they were aging in a society that became younger through the baby boom on average, because there were more children born. So demographic aging, again, has two unrelated reasons. The first is the decline in fertility. So if people have no children, the weight of the older generation is automatically getting larger without these older people doing anything about it. And the other reason for demographic aging is an increasing life expectancy. And this increasing life expectancy has various reasons, but the main reason has to do with better supply of food, food security, clear water, sewage systems, things like that. Only at the later stage of life, it gets related to healthcare systems. But the fact that we are growing up to age 50 or 55 basically has to do with other factors. So my presentation has disappeared. So life expectancy at birth has increased, more than doubled over the past 120 years. So we have an increase of more than 200 minutes per day. So your life expectancy is increasing while you're sitting here. So spend 2 days with the group here, and your life expectancy will have increased by more than 4 hours. So so the aging takes place at two different sides. As I said, it's the younger people globally. So that younger people globally whose number is no longer increasing. This, as I said, has to do with the fact that we have a decline in fertility, despite the fact that we have many young people who potentially could become parents. And on the top of our age pyramid, we see an increase, but still globally, the elderly people, defined as people above age 65, is only 10% of global population. So it's still a rare phenomenon that you have older people around. It's not exactly like this in the room. The room here could get you to a totally misleading conclusion that mainly the world is populated by older people. That's not the case. Just leave the room, the first relief will come. But then when you would go to a country like, I don't know, Nigeria or India, you would see mostly young people. So what we see is that some 75 years ago, 4% of global population were above age 65. Today, we are at 10%. And at the end of the 21st century, I will be dead by then. Most of you, unfortunately, also will not get to that age, but my kids have a good chance to get there. About 25% of global population will be over 65. This will be a completely different world. Very important to understand. So where is old people concentrated today? You see that a high percentage of older people is in Japan and in Western Europe. These are the two areas where the percentage of older people is above 25%. In Japan, already above 30%. So Japan is the future of most other parts of the world, except Africa, Central and Western Asia. We'll come to that in a second. So in the year 2050, sounds very far, but it's only 25 years away from today, you will see that a large part of the world will have percentages of older people above at least 20%, reaching 30% in Canada, in all of Europe, in China. Japan will be even above that. So you see three areas where it's not the case. So that's sub-Saharan Africa, that's India and Afghanistan and Central Asia, and that's Indonesia and the Philippines. So they will still be the youngest parts of the world in 25 years from now, and that's related to fertility, higher numbers of children than in the rest of the world. So now let's look at two different groups of countries, although this is very rough, but if you look at elderly people in developing in lower middle and low income countries, you will see that there is a small minority of them living in these countries because the percentage of elderly people in these countries is fairly small, but there's poverty among these people. But it's important to see that this poverty is not related to old age. It's poor people getting old and not old people getting poor in lower middle and low income countries. These people have been excluded from the cash economy for most of their lives. They had no chance to have savings. There's no pension insurance in lower middle and low income countries for the majority of people living there. There's a lifelong need to work. Elderlies are dependent on their children, on other relatives, on social solidarity in smaller groups there. So it's important to understand that old age poverty is not linked to age, but to increasing longevity, even in countries outside the rich world. And that again has to do with better supply of food, cleaner water, mass vaccination, things like that. So when you look at the geography of people above age 65 working, you see that's inverted. So that's not where you have large percentages of old people, but it's where these people cannot retire and don't have the means to stop working. So work above age 65 is mainly a lower middle and low income country phenomenon. So that's for men. For women, we have slightly different figures, but then you have to see that the work in the informal economy is not always well documented. So in these countries, you don't need specific policies targeting old people. You need specific policies targeting the inclusion of people living outside the cash economy and not covered by any type of ability to save or to get covered by any social insurance and pension insurance provision. Now let's look at the happy rich world. So where most of the people sitting in the room are coming from. And there it's upper middle and high income countries. So we have a much higher share of older people there. Most of these people have been able to create some sort of life savings or have accrued rights towards the pension insurance systems of their countries. Most people in these countries are able to retire once they have reached a certain age. Most elderly residents of upper middle and richer countries are receiving pension payments. And so old age poverty is pretty low in most EU countries. There are some exceptions, as you see in Latvia and a few other East Central European countries, but on average, only 15% of the older people in the European Union are at risk of poverty and are at risk of poverty. So when you look at the age pyramid of Europe, you see what's happening. The older age is still a smaller proportion. So we're talking about less than 20%, but there is this growing push towards old age among the baby boomer generation, now leaving the labor market. And the important feature of our demography in Europe is that the people graduating from our schools and universities as a generation are 35% smaller in numbers than the baby boomer generation about to retire or already retired. And so when you look where the older people are concentrated share-wise, you see it's a bit in Scandinavia and the Baltic countries. It's Germany, it's France, Portugal, it's Italy and Greece. These are the countries with the oldest population today, both for longevity reasons and for very low fertility reasons that are coming together here. So the question is, how many will be over age 65 per 100 people age 20 to 64. This is what we are calling the old age dependency ratio, and that's a demographic ratio. And there you see this is lowest in Turkey, for example, in Albania, in Kosovo, but also in countries like Poland or Ireland that have higher numbers of children, which then translates into higher numbers of people age 20 to 64 as compared to elderly people, but it also relates to lower life expectancy in places like Poland or the Baltics or Turkey as compared. So this gives you an idea how many people in active age categories have to support how many people above age 65. From a fiscal point of view, it's not the demographic old age dependency ratio that is important, but it's the question, how many of the people between age 20 and 64 are making fiscal contributions to the system? So how many of them are employed? And so for the pension insurance system, for the fiscality of the state, the calculation looks a bit different. If you have a country with many young people, but if these people are unemployed, they are not making contributions, then this is of no help to finance the older generation. So now what we see in Europe mostly, and you can see this by the people surrounding you at your own age, is that most older people in Europe are not working. We have an employment rate, labor force participation rate in the age group 60 to 64 of 46%. So more than 1 in 2 is already not working anymore. In the age group 65 to 69, 13% only are still working. In the age group 70, 74, it's only 5%. So a total contrast to what we have seen in an earlier slide about the situation in lower middle and low income countries. So what to do? Basically, it's the clear message to the Europeans, both good for society, but also good for fighting old age poverty and other problems. Retire later, stay in the workforce, even if you receive pension systems, or volunteer in certain areas where this would alleviate the situation and, how you say, help the state save fiscal expenses. I mean, these are the 3 basic messages. Now, for that, you do not only need the will of all the people to engage, but also we would need labor market conditions that would make it easier for all the people to continue working. But generally, what we see in our society is a push towards early pensions. And every attempt of governments to push up retirement age in many countries produces a lot of social unrest, protest, strikes, etc. against such a push. France is a good example in the current struggle, etc. So I'm just saying it's not without political risk going for that. But individually, you can try to continue working. So final point here, or 2 final points here, beyond the question how much money you have and how old you get, is the question, if you are getting frail, who is caring for you? And so the caregiving resources are an important question here. How many people, usually migrants, coming to richer countries in Europe and in other parts of the world, taking care of the elderly people? It's usually forgotten that this caring leaves an empty space in the household where the caregiver is coming. So caregiving here to rich people, relatively rich people by international standards, means that children or husbands or older people in the country of origin of the caregivers are not getting the kind of support that should be. So we should understand that caregiving does not only have a financial price, it also has a social cost. And the other question is, as many parts of Europe, because of low fertility and high mobility, are getting emptier, is what happens to people who are remaining in regions with population decline, it's usually the elderly staying behind. And the question is, what happened to these people? And this is just not a question, only a question who is going to cook for them or help them in their everyday life. It's also a dimension who is talking to them. How about the social life, the family life in these regions? And that's important to understand that. So the lonely regions today, the shrinking ones, were concentrated at the fringes of the European Union. But if you look at projection in 25 years from now, many parts of Europe will have a shrinking population. And so the phenomenon is going to become more widespread. And in the year 2050, the average age in Europe is going to be over 50 already. So 1 in 2 people will be over 50 in 25 years from now. And many of these people will be living in areas where the younger generation has already left. So I leave it to you to discuss these things, but I hope I have made a little contribution to at least open the debate. Thanks a lot.
Well, dear Rainer Münz, that was a very interesting, fascinating introduction into the demographic landscape of the world, and in particular of Europe. A lot of food for thought. We certainly will, when we are back home, we'll reflect about all these data, which are partially even shocking when we look at them, and we wonder what will the future society, global society and the European society look like. I encourage now persons who have the pressing need. I see somebody has a pressing need. The former chair of the NGO committee, by the way, to make a comment or ask a question. Please note that after all the contributions, we will have a discussion time, a general discussion time, but that should not prevent you from now immediately express your concern or your wish to contribute. Please.
Yes, I would be, you gave us a.
Please take a microphone.
Okay, you gave us a statistic about how many people are working after the retirement, or 60 to 64. What would be interesting for me, is there any statistic showing how many people would like to work after 65, but who are denied the right to do it due to the rulings of the country? You, as an Austrian Academy of Science worker years ago, and there we had to leave at 65. And in the academic field, you're still working and you're still doing research, but you are not allowed to continue to work. So it'd be interesting if there is a statistic on that that would make the governments raise the retirement age for those people who want to work. That's my question.
Thank you very much. Is there more? Yeah, please.
Yes, on the same line, I would like to know, when you define work, I think you were talking about a remunerated work and not the work women usually do, which is necessary to keep a society running. So that's for clearance. And regarding you, there's the 4th Anti-Discrimination Directive of the European Union has quite a lot of jurisprudence on forced retirement age, and the European Court in Luxembourg is getting tighter and tighter in giving economies freedom for forced retirement ages. So you really have to argue strongly now to have a unified forced retirement age. The trend should be getting more to an age where you can collect your pension without deduction, especially in societies which are aging, where you would need people. On the other hand, you have to ask the question, how would that, having people in the labor market longer, affect the ability to do voluntary work, considering the fact that people also want to enjoy the best years of their lives? And if you cut that period shorter, would they spend less time in voluntary work than they would now, where they have more years to enjoy life? So these questions are not so easy to answer, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Is there a third pressing need? No, that's not the case. So please, Rainer.
Yeah. So the number of people below age 60 or 65 who would want to work less is much larger than the number of people above age 65 who would want to work more. I think that's this we know from public opinion polls for sure. If there was no pressure on governments to reduce retirement age or to let people retire as soon as possible, governments would not do that. Yeah, but there is no pressure in our society. The only pressure for a higher retirement age comes from the fiscality, so from the fiscal side. And now, but that's only a development of the last 2 or 3 years, from parts of the private sector saying, yeah, but we need some of these people. Can we please organize it in a way that people can continue? And then you have countries like the Scandinavian countries where so the mandatory or the mean retirement age is linked to life expectancy. There you have an automatic increase if the life expectancy goes up. But in countries like Austria, like Germany, like Switzerland, it's a once in a generation effort to push it 2 years up. Then 30 years later, life expectancy has increased by more than these 2 years. And then the next generation of politicians has to push it up again. There is no automatic adjustment made here. But make no mistake, you say, yeah, the Austrian Academy of Science and most institutions are asking people to retire at age 65. This does not prevent older people from working. It just prevents you from the privilege of having this working environment that caters to your needs. But as a scientist, you can continue doing research, or at least writing articles, or at least becoming more understandable, and for the first time in your life, talk to a broader audience, because you need no career anymore, things like that. So, but then comes the volunteering aspect. What helps societies is not just that you have people working and producing GDP, but also the social fabric is held together by volunteers. In many countries of Europe, I mean, if you compare the Greek situation to the Austro-German situation, you see the firefighters in Austria, Germany, Switzerland are all volunteers, except a few inner cities where you have professional firefighters. When you see these wildfires in Greece, one of the reasons why you have these wildfires is there is no volunteer force of firefighters. All Greek firefighters are full-time employees of the state, but there's much fewer of them because the state cannot run 100,000 firefighters. If you go to a place like Bavaria, I don't know, it's probably 300,000 firefighters in Bavaria. Same in Austria, something like that, all on a volunteer basis, just to give you a clue. And I think we need to consider that as well. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you. And I think you may be satisfied for the responses. Thank you very much, Rainer Münz. And we are going to continue not by somebody who is present, but the lady still stays in Rome, in beautiful Rome, and she's connected via the internet with us. That is Angela Paparusso. She has a degree of PhD. She's a demographer and a senior researcher at the Italian National Research Council at the Institute for Research on Population and Social Policies. Her main scientific interests are focused on immigration and integration processes, policies, and subjective well-being. Now she will entertain us on the topic of, on the view of the social dimension. So can we?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Thank you very much for the opportunity to take part to this interesting and I would say very important conference, which raises a very timely topic. My speech is on population aging. I will share the presentation. Okay. Okay. My speech is on population aging, and in particular, I will provide data on the main trends at global level, and I will also analyze the main policy implications at economic, social, and cultural level. As already well presented by Professor Münz, population aging is the result of two processes, a process from above of reduction of mortality at all ages, which implies collective choices, and a process from below of reduction in the number of children, so reproductive behaviors, and this implies is strictly connected to individual choices. If we look at two of the main common used indicators to measure population aging, the median age, which is the age that divides the population in two groups of equal size at level of world regions, but also at country level. And if we also take into account life expectancy at birth, we can see a sort of convergence among countries, among regions in this process, in the population, the process of population aging. Of course, with different timings and different speeds. The result is the reduction is the increase in the number of the of people aged 65 and the reduction in the number of children, with the exception of Africa. We can see that the number of the TFR, the total fertility rate, so the number of children per woman, is around 2, is around 2 or below 2 in Asia, in Latin America, in North America, and of course far below 2 in Europe, where in some countries such as Italy we could talk about the lowest low fertility. So population aging is the result of the so-called demographic transition. So the population is aging, the number of children is around or is very close to the desired number of children, and there is a long and healthier life. This process results in a different age structure of populations. The so-called population pyramid is assuming a sort of rectangular shape. Some countries have already reached this shape, have already concluded this process. Other countries are still in the middle of the process, or are starting the process, but the final result will be population aging also for countries that today appear more younger, no, than others. But as far as the consequences, the policy implication of this process, the the economic consequences, first of all, who does fund the cost of population aging? Of course, in welfare states, pensions, not only public pensions, but also private pension schemes can complement public pensions. Of course, income from savings, and for the youngest, income, and for those who want to work, income from a second job. We know that the greater the number of the elderly, the higher the greater the burden to be supported, with important effects on the labor market, the healthcare systems, and the assistance, both formal and informal assistance of older people. But there are also implications for the ability of a country to innovate, to be competitive, and last but not least, also a big pressure on public debts. If we look at the data from Eurostat on the public social expenditure for the elderly and families and children in the European Union, we can see that there is a big disproportion between the money that is devoted to children and families, and the expenditure for the old ages, the old age, with differences between countries depending on the level of population aging, but also depending on public policies, on the policies that are implemented for children and for the elderly. The social consequences of population aging are manifold. Of course, the future generations of elderly will be different from those of today, and the new cohorts entering old age tends to be healthier compared to the one before. And this is the other side of the coin. There is the process of active aging, the capacity of older people to age actively and to participate in paid employment. We can and we should distinguish between a third age, generally with a disability-free life expectancy, and a fourth age, when the incidence of chronic diseases start to appear. In order to consider these differences, many new or non-traditional quality of life or duration of life indicators have been introduced, have been developed, such as years of good life, healthy life years at birth or at age 65, and also quality of life and subjective well-being measures, in order to take into account the different implications that population aging is having for not only for societies but also for individuals themselves. And there are also cultural consequences of this process. Some ethical issues or concerns linked to caring older and sick people, but there is also a sort of resources that came from migration. Migration has already balanced the population aging. Foreign-born population has already not inverted by, but alleviate population decline because of the younger age structure of immigrants, their initial propensity to have a higher number of children in the destination countries, although we also know that in the long term also immigrants tend to age, so the number of immigrants should be very big in order to change this trend. Among the many solutions that are available, there are, of course, not only migration, not only pension reforms and age and increasing the age at retirement, but also intervene in the labor market, increasing youth and female employment, but also implementing policies and services for increasing or at least reducing the gap between the desired fertility and real or the realized fertility. A recent study have shown that we can in part, partially mitigate the labor market consequences of population aging. If we look at the projected labor force size and labor force dependency ratio in European Union in the next decades, we can see that if we consider a scenario of education equality, immigrants equality, and gender equality, and the combination of these three scenarios, super equality, the decrease in the labor force size and the increase in the labor force dependency ratio will be smaller. So migration can be not the solution, but a possible solution to population aging. Thank you for your attention, and I'm available for questions, comments, and curiosities.
Well, thank you very much, Angela Paparusso from faraway Rome. But you are very present in this room through the modern communication systems. And again, I would like to encourage participants to who feel the need to immediately go into a discussion and contribute to it or ask questions. Raise your hand and take the microphone. Yeah, please.
Just one remark, when we talk about active aging, I think it's important really to look who can be actively aging in future, because there's a share of a population group that will not be able to do so because of the type of work they have done during their younger life. Just to add to your presentation.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? That doesn't seem to be the case for the moment, at least. We have more discussion time later. So, Angela Paparusso, would you like to respond to?
Yes. Active aging is, yes, I think that individuals, person should want to participate in the labor market after retirement. So I think to facilitate this process is important also to increase competencies during the labor market participation, also to reduce the technological, for instance, gap between generations of workers.
Okay, thank you very much. I presume that you stay with us
Of course,
and
yes.
follow the following contributions and discussions. Thank you very
Yes,
much
thank
indeed
you.
once again. Now I have on my left side Yael Silberschlag. Thank you for being here. From far away you came, from turmoil country, which we hear about a lot. We are very proud that you took the trouble to travel from, you took the plane in Tel Aviv, I would suppose, to come here. And thank you for the organization which made it possible that you really came to Vienna. Yael Silberschlag is a gerontologist and occupational therapist. She's a lecturer and researcher at Ono Academic College and the academic coordinator for geriatrics in the undergraduate degree program for occupational therapy and academic coordinator for rehabilitation in the master's degree program. She has conducted numerous nationwide studies on a wide range of topics, including fall prevention, functional cognition judgment in the adulter population, and the like issues. She has worked for 20 years as director of the occupational therapy services in the Geriatric Center of Maccabi Health Services. And she leads the Israeli lifestyle program for older adults like me and etc. In addition, she lectures on various topics for professionals and the general public. So we are very curious to hear what you have to communicate to us. And you have the floor.
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the invitation. I am honored. I would also like to thank the NGO representative of WITZO for inviting me to speak at the event. I am Dr. Yael Silberschlag. I am a gerontologist, occupational therapist. I'm a researcher and lecturer at Ono Academic College in Israel. These are the topics I am going to address in my talk. I'll do a short overview of older adults population in Israel. I will speak about marginalization of older adults from the medical perspective. I will ask what can be done, and I will give examples from the field in Israel. So we have about 10 million people in Israel. I understand it's something like Austria, yes. 1.2 million older adults in Israel. It's 12% of the population. When Israel was established about 76 years ago, there were about 4%. 42% of them are aged 75 and above, and about 30% receive government subsidized long-term care nursing benefits. That's quite a lot, 30%. The average life expectancy for women in Israel is 85, and for men is 81. Now I am going to present the 5 main areas that affect the medical condition and health of marginalized older adults. The first one is chronic disease. We know that marginalization impacts the development of management of chronic conditions like heart disease, diabetic, and dementia. And we know that chronic disease are a significant issue in old age that affect health and well-being. There are a few factors that contribute to chronic disease: reduced access to healthcare, fewer years of formal education, unhealthy lifestyle. Please notice how quality of care can contribute to chronic disease, delayed diagnosis and treatment of health condition, and discrimination, which can lead to mistrust and delayed care. The second thing is mental health disorders. We know that marginalization increases the risk for poor mental health outcomes like depression and anxiety. And as we know, these disorders are also a significant issue in old age that affect health and well-being. There are a few factors that contribute to mental health challenges: social isolation and loneliness, discrimination and stigma can lead to chronic stress, low self-esteem, and depression, limited access to mental health services, and also physical health condition can contribute to mental health problems. The third thing is healthcare access and utilization. We know that marginalization affects the access and uses of healthcare services, and this may lead to poor health outcomes, higher morbidity rates, and increased healthcare costs. The barriers to healthcare access can be financial barriers like lack of health insurance, transportation issues, language difficulties, and even culture misunderstanding. The fourth one is health behaviors. We know that marginalization is often associated with unhealthy behaviors like smoking, poor diet, and physical inactivity. The factors influence unhealthy behavior can be socio-economic factors like poverty and unemployment, environmental factors like limited opportunities for physical activity. Limited access to information can prevent healthy behaviors, and also culture factors. Culture norms and tradition may promote unhealthy behaviors. And the fifth thing is caregiver burden. I think it's important to refer to this because we know that there are many family members who are primary caregivers, and marginalization may increase caregiver burden and the health and well-being. And studies have documented that caregivers of marginalized older adults experience higher level of stress. Factors contributing to caregiver burden is complex care need, finances, strain, lack of support services, and again, discrimination and stigma, which can isolate them and increase the stress and levels. So we must ask ourselves, can we improve the situation for marginalized older adults when there are so many factors that can negatively influence the medical condition and health? To answer this question, the question is, what can we do? To answer this question, I want to remind us that the World Health Organization defines health comprehensively as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. That is why I want to focus on a holistic approach to caring for older adults' health population. Holistic approach is critical for effective care. A holistic approach involves interconnected factors that contribute to general well-being, and this approach recognizes that health requires a coordinated effort across multi-sectors of society. So some examples for holistic approach: holistic health approach, policy advocacy, community engagement, social participation, continuity of care, integrated care model, caregiver support, economic support, mental health support, technology, research, access to comprehensive healthcare, and training for healthcare providers. So now I will take you to a short tour in Israel. Don't worry, it's not going to be so long, okay? I did it and I met a lot of people and it was great. And I just want to show you some examples from the field addressing this holistic approach. So let's start from the government point of view. We have got 4 laws to ensure well-being of all the adults. Every permanent resident of the State of Israel receives health services through one of the 4 health insurance funds. The second law is the nursing law. The law provides state assistance for older adults who need help with daily function and wish to continue living in the home. As I said before, about 30% get these benefits. The pension law, actually, it only became mandatory about 15 years ago that everybody needs pension. And the senior citizen law provides various rights and benefits to senior citizens. Another thing, in July 2021, the government of Israel adopted the resolution 127. The resolution 127 refers to the index map of optimal aging. There are a few national indices for optimal aging: health, meaning in life, and economic resilience. And the predictive incidence for optimal aging is health management, healthy lifestyle, active lifestyle, all what connects to financial and digital literacy. And this is important because it outlines the activity of the government officers that deals with older adults. So the Ministry of Health encourages programs for early detection of risk factors and prevention of chronic morbidity. In hospitals, they expand programs to prevent further deterioration during hospitalization. In the community, the Ministry of Health is a significant partner of Muni 100 that aims to promote optimal aging in local authorities. I will talk about it just now. And in rehabilitation, strengthening the rehabilitation system and also supportive environment for caring family members. The Ministry of Health also audits the quality of care of older adults in health services, in long-term care hospitalization, they subsidize long-term care hospitalization, and we've got a few national programs to address falls, dementia, and palliative care. The programs of the Ministry of Welfare and Social Affairs focus on meaning in life. There are 350,000 older adults receive services in Israel, social clubs, day centers. The average age in day centers is about 85. Programs to alleviate loneliness, supportive communities, and in every municipality we have manpower that is in charge of older adults. The Ministry of Social Equality focuses on independent older adults. They have many excellent programs. If somebody wants to get some information, we can all call now Abstract 8840. We can try, they'll answer us, okay? Well, program Up 60 Plus Center is a center for people who retire, groups for caregiver family members, digital training, volunteers, employment center, classes for senior citizens in school. This picture is a group of ultra-Orthodox caregivers, and this picture is a group from a retirement center. The National Insurance Institute promotes aging in place. Every person over the age of 70 gets old age pension. There's additional payment to all the adults with low income, support group for widows, social visits for older adults, especially the old, over age 90, organization of volunteers. And I think the most important is long-term care services at home. This is a picture I took a few days ago near my house. From the healthcare services point of view, I will give an example of Maccabi Health Services. This is the second large health services in Israel fund, and they have programs for family doctors like golden age visit. They have geriatric units, comprehensive geriatric assessment clinics, home care unit, consulting for nursing home unit, and they also have a computer system. There's a computer system for identifying frail older adults. From the point of view of local authorities, the local authorities are directed to promote optimal aging. There is, of course, a connection between the government officers and the local authorities, and this is called Muni 100, preparing of local authorities for the challenging of hosting a population who may receive 100 years of life. This is based on the World Health Organization's model. So they emphasize 4 things: physical accessibility, economic accessibility, information access, and social accessibility. Here we can see a picture from Tamra. Tamra is an Arab Israeli town in the northern Galilee. Amar is a senior citizen advisor from the municipality, and we can see a senior citizen in high school with the pupils. Here we can see a picture from a day center for frail elders in a town of Galilee with a diverse culture and religion population. Immigrants from Ethiopia, from Russian, Arabs, everybody together. Here we can see a beautiful beach in Tel Aviv. If you haven't been yet, I am inviting you to a beautiful beach. These are pictures I took just before I came. This is an accessible beach, an older age-friendly city. Very important. I would also like to mention the kibbutzim in Israel. The way of life is special. They emphasize very much the community engagement. Here we see a picture of older adults from Kibbutz Be'eri in the south who were unfortunately evacuated from their homes, but even in the lobby of the hotel, they continue the community engagement. Okay, look at this picture. So our short tour is finished. There is much more that we have not discussed. From a personal point of view, I am very proud of what we have in Israel for older adults. We have accomplished many things to improve also the medical situation and health of marginalized older adults. I think we're on the right track, okay, to ensure healthy lives and promoting well-being also for older adults. Well, there is still work to do, to be done, of course. We have to reach more older adults in the community. It's not enough. We have to address age discrimination. We have to improve continuity of care. And I think the most important thing is the connection between the health system and the social system. This is very important. It's challenging. We are starting to work on this already. And before I finish, before I end the lecture, I want to tell you another important element, I think the most important element, to demarginalize for older adults. Can you guess maybe? The most important. This is hard actually. Okay, so I'll give the answer. Holidays and food. Very important. This is a picture for one of the holidays. This is my family and some of my extended family, my mother in the middle. And like many other cultural traditions is very important, and it brings the family together. And in 2 days, we are celebrating the Jewish New Year. We have had a very difficult year, and I want to wish all our people to return home, including older adults. And I want to wish us all a happy and sweet New Year, a year of health and peace, a year of prosperity for all the adults. And as we say in Hebrew, a good year is a Shana Tova. And I will end with greeting for my caregiver groups who sent you these greetings. Please, if you can press, is it PDF? This is, okay, so I'll tell you what they said. This is a caregiver group, and they all holding an apple and honey, thank you. And they say to you, Shana Tova from Israel. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, dear Yael Silberschlag, for your very interesting two-part lecture. One on the general aspects of our topic and the consequences of demographic change, etc., and then the tour around your home country. I must say, I have been to Israel many, many times, and my organization, the European Federation of Older Persons, has a member in Israel that is Histadrut, one of the biggest civil society organizations in that country. And I personally have always been impressed by the services and institutions for older persons in that country. They're really exemplary and admirable. So I still will stay in Austria and Germany in my very, very old age, but I would not mind to be in Israel as an older person, I must say. Good. Let me see whether there are questions or comments. No, then we postpone that to the general discussion after all the contributions. Once again, yeah, many, many thanks. And we are very happy that you came. And to Zonta, thank you very much for having brought her. Good. The next contributor is on my right. You see, I've positioned ladies well, one on my left, one on my right, two on my right side. And I invite you, Nicole Sindorf-Hinte, from my home country. She is working for the German Federal Ministry for Family Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women and Youth. They call it in Germany the ministry with the many letters, because it's BMFSFJ. She has worked for that ministry for 30 years and is since May 2020 the head of the Division for International Policy on Aging and Inclusion. She was a political advisor for the protection of women from violence, a coordinator for international measures against gender-based violence and human trafficking, and represented Germany as a negotiator for the Palermo Protocol. You all know what the Palermo Protocol is about, and the Council of Europe's Convention on Aging Against Trafficking in Human Beings, and the Istanbul Convention at the UN and Convention at the EU, the Council of Europe, and at UN levels. So you are a very, very experienced person. We are looking joyfully towards your presentation, and I give you the floor. Please use the microphone.
Yeah. Thank you, Dirk, for inviting me. And yeah, I will need that, I think.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
I think this is, let's see. Yeah. And well, I don't think I will be as inspiring as Yael, but I'll try my best. I was given the task to deliberate on political challenges and measures. Reflecting more on it, I miss one word. It should be chances, political challenges and measures. Because we always look at aging on a negative side and don't see the positive sides to aging. That's just philosophically to start. What? Yeah, I'm trying. Yes. I'll start with setting the frame and just give you a bit of living situation of older persons in Germany. We had some of the slides before, but 22% of the population in Germany in the year 2002 is over 60, 2022 is over 65. 20 years ago, it was 17%, so we're getting older. 96% of people over 65 live independently in their own home, and now it gets interesting. 84% of persons over 85 live independently in their own home. And after I drew the presentation last week, the statistic office came up with the figures for the over 100-year-olds. And in 2022, 59% of persons over 100 years old in Germany lived independently in their own home. Just to give you ideas that we shouldn't look at always negatively. Good news is the deinstitutionalization quota within the age cohort of the over 85-year-olds is going down. It's slowly going down, but it's continuously going down. You can see that there. And also, we have 25% more of people over 100 in Germany. It's around 17,000 right now. But more and more of them live independently. That's also good news. And we should bear that in mind. That's also an indicator for good and healthy aging. So don't be so much afraid. The statistics are pro remaining independent. So setting the frame, what does it mean for a federal country? Germany is a bit specific on that because we're not a central country. So the federal government has limited competences, which are defined in the Constitution. And where the federal government doesn't have a competence, it is not allowed to act, even if the lender who have the competence do not act. That's a major difference, for example, to the Spanish Constitution or to the Austrian Constitution, comparing federal countries. I think Switzerland has similar regulations to Germany. But we can support for a limited period of time best practices, we can advise, we can appeal. As it comes to lawmaking, federal law is always stronger than Länder law. Most laws of the federal level need the support of the Bundesrat, which is the second chamber where all the Länder are represented. And it is up to the 16 Länder to execute the federal law. Within the Länder, especially the larger Länder like North Rhine-Westphalia, which has 18 million inhabitants, Bavaria 13 million, Baden-Württemberg 11 million, there are many acts are delegated to cities and communities, and there's a level in the bigger states in between, which is called the Bezirke. You could call it the regions within the region. So bureaucracy at its best. And we have a tradition of social codes. The tradition of social codes in Germany dates back to Bismarck. So we're way in the 19th century. We have seen a total breakdown of 2 German states in between, but we still have the social codes. They survived and the social system survived. Very important for older persons is the social code number 5, which is the statutory health insurance, which covers about 95% of the population. And it also has one of the targets to improve the health of older persons through preventative measures. All the insurance companies who are in the statutory health insurance have to meet the national health targets in the guidelines, and healthy aging is one of the targets. So they support citizen communities in developing enabling environments for healthy aging. Another important book is Social Code number 9. It talks about the inclusion of persons with disabilities, and it links directly to the CRPD, the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disability, and it grants support for the independent and self-determined living, for example, for personal assistance, for mobility assistance. And let's be clear, if you suffer from a chronic illness or are in need of long-term care, you fall within the remits also of the CRPD. We tend to forget that when we discuss human rights for older persons. One of the newer social codes is the Book 11. The Book 11 is from 1992. It's the youngest pillar of the social insurance. It's the long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance, different to the health insurance, accident insurance, and unemployment insurance, is not what we call a full coverage, but a partial coverage. However, it was a game changer because it set the principle that outpatient care always has prevalence over residential care. This means over the past 30 years, we have outpatient care services all over Germany, which enable older persons to live longer at home with the support of the families, but also support the families to make it possible for older persons to live longer at home. So it's interconnected. And also very important is Social Code 12, Aid for Living, that grants financial support for those in old age who are in need, irrespective where they live. And it's very, very important for many people to cover costs for residential care because it ensures everybody so it makes sure that everybody can afford to move into a residential home if they decide to do so and the time has come. So that's the frame. And now I'm back to what can the Ministry for Senior Citizens do? Because obviously those laws fall within the remit of either the Ministry for Labor and Social Affairs or the Ministry of Health, which are definitely not the ministry I'm working in. So we are there for what I call the soft measures, which are high effective in implementing what Yael called the principles of the WHO. So it's a different health idea behind it. It's a well-being, and it's not the absence of disease. It's a state of well-being. So the first measure I want to introduce is our strategy to counter loneliness. COVID put it on the spotlight. We know that we have several million people, and that's important, of all age groups who feel lonely. In the beginning, it started in 2018 from the perspective of older persons, but the latest figures we have is that the highest feeling of loneliness is in the age group 15 to 35. So that's very interesting to see. In 2022, we developed a strategy to counter loneliness, and this year we had a broad consultation. Last year we had a broad consultation process completed, and I see there's a typo. And in December, finally, the cabinet decided to adopt a strategy against loneliness on the federal level. And this is on one slide what it is about. We target all age groups, and it has 5 pillars. The first pillar is raising awareness, which includes a campaign. We have every year now a week of action against loneliness. It started in 2022, so now we're reaching the 3rd year, and as we say, 3 years, that's a tradition. So it will continue. It has measures to enhance knowledge. We have a loneliness barometer, which is published annually on Figure. We support participative sociological research. We strengthen practitioners to enhance programs and measures, but also to foster formats of exchange and knowledge and the networking of actors so they don't reinvent the wheel. Once you find out something's working in the north of Germany, you might as well share that knowledge with your southern colleagues. It saves money, efforts, and time. To act cross-sectionally, get out of the box thinking, check the possibility of a countrywide coalition against loneliness. We need 16 Länder on board. Some of the Länder by now have set up their own strategies, so the network is growing. And we've set up an interministerial working group, which means we also have the ministries of social affairs and labor and the Ministry of Health involved, but also of education and research, which are core actors, and not to forget also the Ministry for Transport and City Development, because age-friendly cities also help to break loneliness. And it is about people, so support people and improve services. We support model projects and their evaluation, and we support nationwide counseling services that are free of charge, diverse, digital, can be reached via phone, regional and local, but you can also walk in if it's there. So what else? We have right now more than 180 single projects against loneliness targeting only older persons across the country. We have the campaign, you see one picture of the campaign, and we have for all age groups the loneliness barometer, public awareness raising campaign, loneliness network in Germany. We have 2 European Social Fund programs, and by the end of this year, we have to discontinue it, but we've set up with the Malteser Hilfsdienst over 100 points, which will be continued, access points against loneliness all over the country. The second issue I want to talk about is our national dementia strategy. The current strategy will run until 2026, but it will continue, that's a set. It's also setting the frame. This year, 1.8 million persons with dementia live in Germany, and the risk rises with longevity. It's actually rising figures in dementia are a good sign because it shows you that people haven't died of other diseases before. That's why we have more cases in dementia. But on the other hand, we know with rising longevity by 2050, we expect 2.8 million. So far, there is no medical cure for dementia, but we need to find a place for persons with dementia and their families. You shouldn't just focus on the person with dementia, but their entire family is affected by it. And dementia is a silent and slow illness. People with dementia withdraw from societies and activities they loved. They simply disappear from the scenery. And with them, very often, parts of their families and their carers disappear. They kind of evaporate. But we need a society that includes persons with dementia, we sees them, and that's what the strategy is about. It also has 5 pillars, which are made up to establish and enhance the structures of participation in social life for persons with dementia. We have over 600 local alliances with dementia, so you could access it basically everywhere in the country. We support persons with dementia and their families. The goal is to improve the healthcare structures for persons with dementia. The Ministry for Education and Research heavily funds excellent research in the field of dementia. And we have strong partners. It's the 2 lead ministry and the German Alzheimer's Society, and many other partners from all levels, like the German Olympic Sports Association, the German Choir Association, and so on. So really get people involved. And looking at enhancing knowledge, for example, we have published small pixie books. I don't know whether you're aware of them. They should also be published in Austria, which go to kindergarten and to elementary schools, which explain to children what is dementia about so that they can understand when their great-grandparents suddenly act differently, to know what it is about, but they're still their grandparents and they love them. So I'll give you a few examples. The local alliances for dementia, for example, have gardens for persons with dementia. They do virtual memory journeys. They do hikes and guided museum tours for persons with dementia. We have a choir project which has 21 local initiatives by the Federation of Choir and Orchestra, because we know that music keeps people involved. People with dementia are usually very good singers, and they remember the tunes, they remember the lyrics, so it helps them to get other things back into their memory. It improves the quality of life and it gets them out of the invisibility. And it's countering the stigma of dementia, because people are insecure how to deal with dementia. So you have to lower the threshold to know more about the disease and just get people involved and act with it normally. Well, I hope I kept within my time, and thank you for the attention.
Well, Nicole, thank you very much for your contribution, which really gave us a little walk through various dimensions of our topic. And it's also good that you added a second part, which is very interesting. And it's one of the scary issues where people are really do not know exactly what they can think about it and fear it tremendously. Very interesting indeed. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? No, you all hold back for the general discussion. Very good, very good. We shall have a very interesting general discussion. Again, thank you very much. Now we come to a second part of our panel. And the second part is that we thought we would like to know exactly what one can do in practice. Not only the theoretical, scientific data and reflections, but are there projects in the world from which we can learn what we can practically do? Projects of that kind are particularly precious because they involve people which are affected by problems of marginalization and the consequences on the one side, and on the other side, they involve people who would like to help and engage either by their organization or by their individual efforts. And so I would like to invite Stephanie Eichhorn, and Stephanie Eichhorn will tell us something about a project in Serbia. But before you start, Stephanie, I would like to present you a little bit, if you allow. Stephanie Eichhorn studied political science at the Free University in Berlin. For 19 years, she worked as a program manager at the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, both at UNODC headquarters in Vienna and in Lima in Mexico City and in Nairobi. So you're, back home in a way. Since 2019, she works as a project coordinator at the Diaconia ACT Austria, focusing on social projects in the Balkans. Well, you're invited to take the floor, use the microphone, and we look forward.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to present our work here in Serbia.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
Yes, yes, of course. The diaconia in Austria, sorry, I have to. Okay, very sorry. I just would like to explain you very quickly. The diaconia in Austria, in its foreign aid work, has two branches. One is oriented towards humanitarian aid, disaster relief, and the other is oriented toward development aid, which we call Bread for the World. We are a pretty small organization. As you can see, our yearly budget for the Bread for the World projects is not even $4 million, out of which only 3 million directly impact on our projects in other countries. We have three main areas of work: food sovereignty and climate justice, social inclusion and gender equality. The social inclusion part is about half of our budget, and it includes also work with old people. Our approach is focused on the promotion of human rights and empowerment of disadvantaged social groups to exercise their rights. Meeting basic needs, partnership and participation. We work directly with local partner organizations and self-advocacy organizations. We do not usually implement projects ourselves in other countries. We give this to local partners. An important part is also networking and learning. We have regional exchange and also local training among different organizations. Starting with Serbia, Serbia has a population of around 6.7 million. It's a shrinking population. Newer data indicate that it's increasing again, but I'm not sure where the data is coming from. Maybe it's related to migration caused by the war in Ukraine, people fleeing to Serbia. I don't really know. The official data is 6.7 million. Serbia has a high HDI rank, 65 out of 193. It's a medium income country, so one can ask, why do we work at all in Serbia? Because we focus on poor people, and marginalized people are our target groups in our work. Looking at the two graphs here, you see the population pyramid of 1980 on the left side and the one of 2020 on the right side. I think it's mirroring what we've seen in earlier presentations. Serbia has a very old population. The population above 65 is 22% in 2022. The reasons for overaging, lower birth rates, increased life expectancy, but also emigration. Push factors in Serbia have been the Balkans War, of course, longer ago, and more recently, economic and social crisis situation following the COVID-19 pandemic and the outbreak of the Ukraine war, having economic and social implications all over Europe and the world in terms of economic development and inflation, etc. In Serbia, older people are among the population groups most at risk of poverty and social exclusion. According to data from 2022, roughly 23% of people aged 65 and over are at risk of poverty. 25% are women and 20% are men. More than a quarter of the Serbian population is at risk of poverty and social exclusion. This risk is increasing with age, and more women than men are affected. As you can see, 65 and older, it's nearly 35% of women are at risk of poverty and social exclusion. The average pension in Serbia is 390 euros. That's about $430 US. And average means that there are many people that have a lot less. Even worse, in the countryside, Average farmer's pension is only 170 euros, around 190 US dollars. And basically, it is estimated that 90% of all farmers only have the minimum pension. We have beneficiaries in the areas where we work that have less than 100 euros, and we even have people that do not have a pension at all. Sorry, I should go back. I would like to add that although there have been increases in pension levels recently, the long-term perspective is that the pensions continue to fall in comparison to the development of incomes, which you can see in these graphs. Orange is average income, gray is average pension, and the yellow line is the relation in percent. Serbia has a comprehensive social protection system, but according to what we learned from our counterparts and what we've seen when we were there, and which is also confirmed in the study from the World Bank that I feel free just to cite word by word because I found it's an excellent summary of what we see and what we face in Serbia. Social assistance programs do not sufficiently reach the poor. The support provided does not adequately cover beneficiary essential needs. The coverage is too limited. Many local self-governments do not provide key services. Dispersed responsibilities, lack of interinstitutional coordination, insufficient case management, and a lack of qualified personnel in the institution. Overaging is also a problem there because many people that we have spoken with in social service institutions, they are reaching pension age and they will not be replaced, as far as we were told. In Serbia, we work mainly in rural areas. There we work with a charity of the Orthodox Church called Philanthropy in English. We also have a very small project with the Novi Sad Humanitarian Center in the city of Novi Sad. The yearly budget since 2009, when we started this type of project, was around 160,000 euros, which is $180,000. The funding mainly comes from the government of Austria and from donations to Brot für die Welt. The project with the Novi Sad Humanitarian Center is very small, but I would nevertheless like to have it in here because I find they have very nice ideas and I wanted to show them to you. So here we spend only $22,000 per year, euros, with support from the Valdesian Church of Italy and our own funds. NSHC also has larger projects with other donors as well. External donors, I would like to say. Our key areas in general in our project work are with old people, addressing immediate needs, opening access to health and social services, psychosocial support, material aid for the poorest. Second area, action against loneliness and for active aging, social gatherings, clubs, creativity and learning opportunities, volunteering. 3, capacity building, training and exchange opportunities for our local partners that implement the projects in country. Our present project just went off in this month. It aims at reducing poverty among older people through access to quality social and health services. We follow a multidimensional understanding of poverty, which includes not only material, but also non-material circumstances, which are mostly social and psychosocial. Our target group are 670 vulnerable older people in rural areas in Roma, Kragujevac, and Kraljevo, and 17 surrounding villages. The present budget is roughly 390 euros. 70% of the funding again come from the government of Austria, from the Social Ministry for Health and Social Affairs. you can see here on the map, we have philanthropy headquarters in Belgrade and NSHC in Novi Sad. We have 3 regional offices of philanthropy in the regional towns of Kragujevac actually is a city, not a town, Krajova and Roma. And we have 17 villages. As you can see on the left side, which is the area of around Kragujevac and Krajova, mountainous area, some of the villages we are quite remote. We do not have a car. Philanthropy doesn't have a car for the caretakers, so the working conditions are not easy in some of these villages. The areas of work since 2019 can be summarized with some photos. One area is claiming rights and helping to seek support. We have produced information guides, regional information guides to the local social welfare system and leaflets where to find help, what the rights of old people are when it comes to seeking social assistance, healthcare, etc. We provide help at home for frail people and for those with limited mobility. Our budget is only enough for once per week and for 75 beneficiaries in the villages right now. Some of them are in villages, others are in the town. New in this project is that we also support a small shelter from philanthropy for people in particularly difficult situations in the city of Kragujevac. It's basically a shelter for homeless people, but it has turned to be out to become a shelter for homeless old people. Historically, that was not directly planned, but this is what happens. People can only stay there half a year, then we have to find another solution for them, and it's extremely challenging. Another area is material aid for the poorest among our larger target group. We distribute packages with food items to support a more healthy diet or to ensure that people have enough food, because some don't. Some hygiene articles for body care, but also cleaning the house. Our beneficiaries over the next 2 years in this sector are around 600. One very important area is giving people access at least to minor health services, I have to say, because in most of the villages we are dealing with, there are no medical doctors and there are no hospitals. So we organize mobile clinics, I can say, a group of medical doctors consisting of general practitioner, internist, ophthalmologist, and a dentist. And we have centralized mobile clinics where people can come from the remote villages to attend insofar as they are physically able to do so. They get a basic checkup, and if there are more severe health problems detected, we will watch out how to help them further on, refer them to other medical doctors, or organize transport to get expert help. Sorry, the target group here total 670 persons. This will also include some younger ones in the villages, plus 70 at home or in the shelter. We try to offer also psychological support. We have heard already a lot about anxiety, about loneliness. This, of course, was highest during the pandemic. Situation in Serbia for old people was pretty difficult because they were basically locked in. They were not allowed to leave home. And so we tried later on to organize some peer group discussions with a psychiatrist. And now we continue to have psychological counseling by a psychologist by phone or face-to-face. that would reach about 50 beneficiaries. Very important is the organization of social clubs. In the countryside, there are virtually zero offers in small villages on the countryside. There are obviously very few young people for reasons we have in many countries. There's overaging is more pronounced in rural areas. So we have 15 villages. In each village, we have 2 volunteers that also receive some basic training. They organize social clubs. We offer some financial support to buy tools for creative handicrafting, games, things like that. This has been very, very successful in my opinion, because when we started, there was nothing. And mostly they still continue, some closed, then we opened up in other villages. In some areas, there was not even a physical building available that could be used. Some of the volunteers got pretty engaged in order to improve this. These pictures are from Novi Sad Humanitarian Center. There we also support a social club and help at home. Here we have a focus on intergenerational exchange. The club is called Spajalika, which means paperclip. It means clip yourself to other people, to action, to activity, to joy, etc., whatever you want to interpret with the word paperclip. You can see the smart form in the cartoon on the lower left end. We have in both projects group training and some basic individual training for IT learning. We have computer classes in the 3 towns, in 4 actually, Novi Sad, Kragujevac, Kraljevo, and Ruma. And in the more remote areas, in the last project, we installed Wi-Fi hotspots, and volunteers help old people to learn how to use the computer and the internet, and most important, as we have seen here, smartphone use. Another important area is capacity building locally and inter-country exchange. We had, for instance, a team of philanthropy visiting Austria in 2019. The theme was home care and mobile home care in rural areas. We have local training carried out by philanthropy for social workers and social service officials in Serbia. In 25 or 26, we will organize a training on dementia at the Neo-Humanist Daycare Center in Strazeni in Moldova. Neo-Humanist is another project partner in elderly care work, is partner also in that project. And we also have local training for social service providers in Serbia, which I already said. Yeah, I'm sorry. Just our main challenge is insufficient funding, short funding periods. With the present funding sources, they are not longer than 2 years. That is difficult for us. Lack of qualified local personnel, that brings us back to what we heard before. There are not enough trained people, and they often prefer to work abroad. Even if we train people, it has happened to us repeatedly that then they go to Germany with the basic training they got from us. And another challenge, the physical infrastructure in rural areas for the home carers and also for our other activities. I would like to many thanks to our donors, the Federal Ministry of Austria for Social Affairs, Healthcare and Consumer Protection, that continuously financed our projects since 2018. And thank you for your interest in our work, and I'm sorry that it took more time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stephanie. it seems to be the case that there are still many things to do, that it is only a drop in a big ocean, which you can provide because it's so many needs in this country, and not only in this country, but many, many other countries. So what is important is always the first steps. Also that from your action, other people can learn and continue the action by their own building up structures and providing services, etc. That is very, very valuable. Now, any comments or questions concerning this contribution? If that is not the case, then I would like to call on our very far contributor, and that is Myrna Tangyao from the Philippines. Obviously, she couldn't come to attend this meeting personally, but she has prepared a contribution anyway. Myrna Tangyao is a commissioner for economy and industry in the Philippine Commission for Women. She's also a president of the Business and Professional Women of the Philippines, a former chairperson of the Philippine Commission for Women, and she is the founding chairperson of the Philippine Federation of Local Councils of Women. She is a multi-awarded great leader for the country, inspired with her dedication and contributions in serving the women nationwide, focusing on micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, which are very, very important in that country. It's not only big industries which give all the added economic value, but mainly in such a country like the Philippines, it is very small and medium-sized enterprises which mainly live from personal initiatives and the engagement of the population. So, Myrna, are you there? Please switch on your microphone. Then we can hear you. Microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Okay.
start to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, and I would like to thank the organizing committee for this conference and for inviting me. And I think you saved the best for last. I hope I can make you laugh for a while because it has been long and it's all past 10 p.m. in my country. So I would like to share my papers. Okay. My, oh my. Can you see my screen? Uh-oh.
Can you speak, please, a little bit closer to the microphone? The sound is low here.
Can I ask Rita to help me share my, I tried to share it, but it didn't come out. Can you see my screen?
Your screen, but not your presentation.
Yeah, we can see you, Myrna,
Uh-huh.
but not your slides.
Oh. Where is it? Share sound. Sharing. I send my, is Rita there? Maybe Rita can help me share the screen because it's not coming out. Layout.
We try to solve the technical problem.
Yeah.
3 people are working
Yeah. Can you
on
help
the
me?
issue.
I emailed my PowerPoint, but it's not coming in my. When I click the share, it's not coming out.
Myrna, a good advice to you. Your file is online, but you have to open it, please.
Okay.
Just tell it yourself.
Hello, would you be so kind to just open the file where you saved the presentation? Because your computer is already shared with us. So you just need to open the presentation in the file that where you saved it. Thanks.
Mhm. Okay. But can you look at the email that I sent you? Because it's a new version. Search.
Myrna, you made a presentation and then you saved it in a file. And the file must be on your end. Can you please open it?
Mhm. I tried to open it, but it's not.
No, we will do it in 2 steps. First of
Okay.
all, we show your video, which you provided, and that gives you a little bit of time to find your slides, and then we can continue. So we start with your video, okay?
That would be good.
Yeah, very good.
Okay. Thank you.
To the audience, please, a little bit of patience. International cooperation is good, but international communication sometimes has a little bit of difficulties.
Challenges.
Challenges, yes.
Unshare.
Can you please stop sharing your screen so that we can put in the video? Disconnect, please.
Okay.
Disconnect. Well, okay. Aha. We come closer. Video. Ah, yeah, well, here we are.
Sound.
Sound is missing. Coming up. Good.
Challenges.
Yeah.
I would like to thank the Aging Committee of UN Vienna, headed by Chair Dirk Jarré, on the conference to celebrate the International Day of Older Persons. My topic is about the marginalization of older persons in the society. In the Philippines, the welfare of senior citizens remains a critical concern in contemporary society. Despite efforts to improve their conditions through the legislative measures such as the expanded Senior Citizens Act of 2010, which provides privileges and benefits, economic hardships often render many elderly individuals financially vulnerable. Lacking adequate support for their daily needs, social isolation exacerbates these challenges as a significant number of seniors experience loneliness and neglect due to evolving family dynamics and urban migration trends. Furthermore, healthcare accessibility presents a profound issue with numerous elderly citizens struggling to access affordable and comprehensive medical services. Addressing these multifaceted challenges necessitates a concerted effort from governmental and non-governmental sectors to enhance social protections, foster inclusive community engagement, and ensure equitable healthcare access nationwide. Studies indicate that older Filipinos face considerable health risk, primarily from chronic conditions like hypertension, arthritis, diabetes, and cataracts, often undiagnosed due to limited healthcare access. Additionally, poor oral health and nutritional deficiencies are prevalent, characterized by high incidence of tooth loss and underweight conditions. Functional disabilities such as difficulties with daily activities and independent living are widespread among seniors, significantly impacting their overall quality of life. Many seniors also struggle with inadequate healthcare access due to financial constraints, hindering their ability to obtain essential medical attention and medications. Despite health insurance coverage provided by PhilHealth, senior citizens frequently encounter substantial out-of-pocket expenses, particularly for outpatient care and hospitalization. Gender disparities exist, with females more likely to report functional difficulties while often perceiving their health more positively than males. Awareness and utilization of government health programs remain limited, despite efforts to offer free vaccinations and medical services. As the Philippines transitions towards an aging society, many senior citizens facing debilitating illnesses or physical conditions heavily rely on family care due to limited institutional care facilities. Approximately 8% of seniors require daily care for ongoing health conditions, predominantly provided within the family setting, with female relatives often caregiving roles. However, there is a notable lack of formal training among caregivers. Only 5% report having received any form of formal caregiving education. This gap extends to dementia care, where a significant majority of caregivers lack proper training. The burden of providing long-term care at home frequently leads to economic repercussions, as evidenced by 42% of caregivers who reported quitting work to fulfill caregiving responsibilities, significantly impacting household dynamics. These challenges require concerted efforts to improve healthcare access, raise awareness of available support programs, and enhance healthcare services tailored to the diverse needs of senior citizens across different regions of the Philippines. Initiatives should also focus on enhancing support for family caregivers through training programs and expanding access to institutional care options as the population continues to age. The changing dynamics of Filipino families also pose significant challenges for senior citizens, contributing to their plight in contemporary society in today's modern era. There is a growing gap between the older and younger generations, which hinders effective communication and understanding within families. Often, families fail to communicate effectively with the elderly, leading to misunderstanding and strained relationships. Bridging the intergenerational gap is crucial, as it is not only fosters stronger familial bonds but also enhances the living conditions of senior citizens. Understanding and accommodating the different schedules and mindsets of older adults and the younger generation is essential for improving their quality of life. This lack of synchronization in lifestyles often results in neglect or isolation of the elderly, exacerbating their challenges in accessing support and care. Addressing these issues requires promoting better communication practices within families and fostering mutual understanding across generations, thereby alleviating the plight of senior citizens who are integral members of the Filipino society. Support groups and non-government organizations play a crucial role in addressing the challenges faced by senior citizens in the Philippines, such as loneliness, boredom, and generational gaps. These organizations provide vital social connections and activities that help alleviate the isolation many elderly individuals experience. By engaging seniors in meaningful interactions and listening to their stories and perspectives, these groups bridge the gap between generations and foster a sense of belonging and purpose. For instance, local Zumba groups organized at barangay levels not only encourage physical activity but also create opportunities for elderly individuals to socialize and enjoy companionship with their peers. Such initiatives not only combat boredom but also promote a healthier lifestyle among senior citizens. These efforts are essential in improving the overall well-being of seniors by keeping them mentally stimulated, physically active, and socially engaged, thereby enhancing their quality of life amidst the challenges they face in their later years. In fact, one of our club affiliates in Business and Professional Women, BPW Dipolog chapter, they have projects that really help senior citizens, and these are some of these projects. They were given cakes for their birthdays, free hospitalizations, which means they don't have to pay anymore. Number 3 is the free checkups, free medicine, and they also have a project for blind senior citizens aged 60 to 65 that teach them how to have an income even in the midst of their handicapped situation. The local government units also give their elderly 1,500 pesos or $30 to help them for their needs like medicine and other essentials. They also launched a project where there is a free cataract operations for senior citizens from August 8 to August 13, 2024. These projects have made seniors feel loved and well cared for. Our affiliates club in Tawi-Tawi supports senior citizens through social pensions and cash incentives, aiding them in purchasing necessities and managing living expenses. Additionally, they offer training programs and activities designed to combat boredom and provide a sense of fulfillment. One such initiative includes classic gatherings, which allow seniors to enjoy simple, enjoyable get-togethers with their peers. In conclusion, while our club affiliates have made commendable strides in supporting senior citizens through various projects, much work remains, particularly in remote areas of the Philippines. These regions face unique challenges that our initiatives must address. As members of the NGO community, we have a crucial role to play in improving accessibility and ensuring that our senior citizens have simple, enjoyable, and effective solutions to their needs. By taking these first steps, we can make a meaningful difference in their lives. We are closely working together with the Department of Health in having these programs continuously in the different regions. I always propagate the idea of having the government, the local government units, the different civil society to work together hand in hand to be able to make these initiatives successful. Thank you.
Milna, thank you very much for this very comprehensive and interesting contribution which you have shared with us. And we all wish you all the best in your work and to the benefit of older persons in Philippine society. Ladies and gentlemen, we come now to the end of our conference. We still have 2 minutes, and I would like to use these 2 minutes to read you the message of the Secretary General of the United Nations for the International Day of Older Persons. The subject and the heading is Aging with Dignity, the Importance of Strengthening Care and Support Systems for Older Persons Worldwide. The Secretary General says, as populations age, care and support systems are vital for older persons to continue actively engaging and enriching their communities. Yet, too often older persons do not have the access to this crucial assistance, deepening inequalities and increasing their vulnerabilities. This disparity falls even heavier on women, including older women, who bear the brunt of providing unpaid care. Recognizing the rights of both those who receive care and caregivers is essential for more resilient societies. We must work to cultivate people-centered care systems that are sustainable and equitable, and they must amplify the voices of older persons by ensuring their participation in policy making. That requires investing in the infrastructure for formal long-term care, ensuring opportunities for decent work, and enabling individuals to transition from informal to formal care. On this International Day of Older Persons, let's commit to strengthen care and support systems that honor the dignity of older persons and caregivers. Thank you for your attention. I now invite you to a social come together outside. Thanks to the social ministry of Austria, we will enjoy an hour of talk to each other, of having a little snack, of having a little glass, and being together and establish new connections between ourselves for further exchange. There's one last remark or even a question to the contributors. All of them. You all here. Are you in agreement that we publish your contributions? We envisage a brochure which documents what you have said, the questions which have been asked, and find a way to give that handed out to interested persons. If you are in agreement, then I would be very happy to initiate that process and that we have that publication in a couple of few weeks or even a couple of small months. It takes a little bit of time because we are all volunteers. We are not paid. We give our time and our energy to these issues. Thank you very much. I understand your agreement.